Before I get started, and before I get into this Moose ad, I wanted to take a second to break this fourth wall between us and the podcast, that it's really important for us to say thank you. From myself and Bill, when we set out on this podcast, it was out there to make changes, make difference in the community, and make people laugh along the way. I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you so much to everyone who listens, who provides feedback, commentary, little jokes and stuff. We notice and read everything. And before we start this episode, it was important for us to say thank you. So thank you to the listener. Thank you for sitting in your car or at work or wherever you tune into the podcast, from wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks for being a part of this great community. And thank you for just giving us the time to speak and hang out with you every week. So on that note, this episode of the TwoDads Podcast is powered by the Celina Moose Lodge 1473. Look, the Moose isn't just where you grab a $12 bucket during the big game. It's where community happens. Whether it's family nights, live music, or supporting local causes, the Celina Moose is always showing up for our town. And speaking of showing up, October is loaded at the Moose. Thursday, October 3rd, we're kicking things off with Kate and Frank live from 7 to 10 p.m. On Friday, October 4th, it's the Free Fall Festival Appreciation Day for community members, a full afternoon of family fun from 12 to 4. Then on Saturday, October 5th, we're throwing the doors open at 9 a.m., 9 in the morning, folks, so you can roll straight in the Browns game with us. It's music, it's fall vibes, it's football, and it's all happening right here in Celina. Grab your crew, stop out, and let's make this first week in October one to remember. If you want to be a part of something special, something different, and something unique, join the Celina Moose Lodge today. Hello, and welcome to the TwoDads Podcast, episode number 33. Bill Ray to my left. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, how are you, buddy? I'm getting to these jersey numbers in the episodes. 33, Nick Swisher. That's the first thing I think about when I hear episode number 33.
Good old Nick Swisher.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Bill Davis Field at Nick Swisher Stadium.
Wow, that's impressive. Always impressive with your sports knowledge. How are you doing, buddy? I haven't seen you in a couple days. What's been going on in your life?
Doing good. Nothing big last weekend. Just spent a couple days up in Toledo for work. So was on a heater at the casino up there for a few weeks, and they got their lick back this week, so didn't do too
Not
hot
so
this
good
week.
at the casino.
Not so good this week, but hey, it's another opportunity to get better next week if I have to go.
I thought it was a pretty big weekend. It was my birthday celebration, so...
Yeah, I mean, I guess we had that. But it was weird because we had two events, and you and I didn't work either event.
That's nice for a change.
Yeah, so we finally trained the team up. Shout out Allison, Berkey, Rich. You guys all ran the events great. I did stop over in Coldwater, and I must have came right when they got slammed. And Berkey's like, "Can you fill more sauce cups, please?" And I just kept filling some sauce cups for him. But no, how was your birthday?
It was good, man. You actually came over. Do you remember?
I do remember that.
Yeah, that was good. No, it was good. Tasha put together a birthday party. It was a lot of fun. I haven't had a 36th birthday party, not just because of my age, but I haven't had a birthday party in a long time.
Yeah.
So people kept showing up, and it was just a good time, and more people kept showing up. So it was a really cool opportunity.
Yeah, it was funny because she texted us and kind of asked me and Rob and said like, "Hey, do you guys want to end up coming to Mitch's birthday party?" She asked if we had to work the truck. I said, "No, yeah, we're going to be there." And I didn't really know if it was a surprise or not. Rob said the same thing, so we tried to come at the same time in case it was a surprise. And speaking of surprises. I know everybody got you something there, and I didn't get you something, but don't think I forgot about you.
Oh,
I have to
I did think you forgot about me.
I know. I have to capitalize on the opportunity of this great gift that the mayor and I went in on. He didn't actually go in on it, but we got you something here, buddy.
Okay. Speaking of,
and the Minecraft
teaser's out. We have the mayor here. How are you? While I open this gift, how are you, Mr. Mayor?
I am doing awesome. It's a beautiful day. It's great to be here.
It was a beautiful day. We shut the garage. Mostly because sometimes the lawnmower man shows up. You never know. Yeah. You never know what could happen. I'm going to open this gift from Bill Ray. I cried at my birthday party. I wept. And for anyone that didn't wish me a happy birthday, whether it's in DMs or, a nice message, okay, thank you very much. So let's see what you got, Bill Ray. I don't know what to expect with this.
My wife made fun of the bag. He loves video games. It was the only video game bag you could find.
For those that aren't...
Minecraft.
Yeah, it's a Minecraft. Bill always says, who are your children?
Yeah. Riker and Mitch.
All right, let's see what you got. What is it? Hold on a second. Did you give me a Micah Parsons jersey?
Yeah, I went to the store and said, "Who's the new guy that plays for the Packers?"
You got me Is this a legit jersey?
Yeah, it wasn't. Hey, I didn't have time to order it from China, man.
That's true. It's true. Between the birthday party and here. Buddy, this is amazing.
I love how you ripped the tags off before you even tried it. I assume
you're not returning
large.
it. I'm going to take, hold on a second. I got to take this off.
And it's got no tariffs on it since it didn't come from China.
Exactly.
That's right. No tariffs. See, we're already getting, Let's hope it fits.
That's, yeah. I had the receipt inside, but the tags are ripped. So
Yeah, not too bad. Keep it.
Hey.
And it fit.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, how are you? Yeah, it's good too. Brad Smith is putting together this like 90-day program where I guess that's like a weight loss thing, but I just wanted to join it to support a boy. So I've just been, it fits nice. I'm feeling good.
No pack, no.
Okay, Mr. Saints fan, that's not funny.
The Saints are 0-3, but we didn't lose to the Browns.
I don't sit here on this podcast every week just to take all this malarkey from you, and that's a teaser for today's game show. But before we get into that, let's do our intro, okay? For those that are listening, we are here with Celina's mayor, Jeff Hazel. He's carried the weight of an entire community. I'll go through the intro for y'all. He's carried the weight of an entire community on his shoulders since 2012. Mayor Jeff Hazel has guided Celina through some of its hardest chapters. Toxic algal blooms choking up Grand Lake St. Mary's, COVID-19. We've had heroin epidemics and even F3 tornadoes tearing through the city. At the same time, he's been pushing for upgrades, new utilities, lakefront development, and small business growth, trying to move Celina forward while holding it all together. Now, he's not just a politician behind a desk. He's a small-town mayor who sees his neighbors at the grocery store every day, gets calls at midnight, and runs a coffee house called
Hazelnut Coffeehouse.
Hey, that's fun right there. With his wife in the mornings, he had to lead in moments of heartbreak, hope, and healing with real stakes, real pressure, and real people counting on him. So today we're not talking just about government. We're going to talk about a lot of topics that happen in Mercer County specifically and in Celina mostly, but we're talking about the psychological impact of leading a small town through crisis, the emotional toll of making impossible calls, and the mindset it takes to keep showing up week after week, and in your case, year after year. And by the end, you'll see why local leadership matters and the humans that are behind it and the cost to all of it. So let's welcome Mayor Jeff Hazel.
Thank you.
Hold on, I got to cut that. Yeah, let's do it. We did it, baby.
32 episodes it took him to figure that out.
Yeah. No, I swear I almost pushed. I was like, let's go, Mr. Mayor. And I was like, that would have just
Anticlimactic.
So how are you? Thank you for coming to the podcast studio.
I'm glad it worked. I know I had a conflict the other night, but I'm really glad it worked, and it's fun to do these.
We thought about not working around the mayor's schedule. We are busy guys, but we got a lot going on. But I thought, Bill called me up. Can we fit the mayor in there? I said, we'll figure it out, I guess. So, right off the bat, okay, we've had that chance to talk off camera for a little bit. Fun personality. This is awesome. But I want to know a little bit about you before we get into the fun personality that is now Mr. Mayor. But take us back. Where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school? What shaped your early years? Was it in Celina? Just give me a rundown of
No,
you.
that's kind of a fun question. I actually grew up in Indianapolis. It's where I grew up. My wife is Patty, formerly Amstutz, so she grew up here in Mercer County. And I met her. My dad actually is the one that picked her out for me to marry years ago. And he says, I got somebody you can marry. He knew her. He was working in a church board, and she was the executive secretary. So he said, I found your wife.
Is this legitimate arrangement marriage?
I would, and he would tell you and he has passed away about 4 years ago, but he would tell you that he arranged it. But I met her, and 2 weeks later, I asked her to marry me, and we were married in 6 months. So
wow.
So you asked her to marry after 2 weeks?
Yeah, I just knew it.
Wow,
I knew the first night I was going to marry her.
I felt the same way about Bill. I said, Bill, will you marry me in a chicken truck?
Two dads, but not like that.
It's man. 2 dads, but not like that.
No. And on the 3rd of October, we'll be married 44 years.
Wow. Congratulations.
So,
that is impressive.
Yeah, she's my best friend, and we've had an awesome marriage. But I grew up in Indianapolis. Shortly after we married, I moved over for a couple of years. Her dad had a manufacturing company. Along with the Amstutz hatcheries, he had what was the Econo Manufacturing building overhead conveyors. So I had moved over, and then we were going to buy it. We moved back to Indianapolis for a little bit. The timing was off. And then in 96, I moved over full-time to buy that company. And I still operate the manufacturing company today. I still build overhead conveyors. But business has been in my blood for a long time. But I would tell you in Indianapolis, I grew up in Indianapolis, and after I got married, I was working for an engineering firm, and there was just something, because my dad was a pastor. I forgot that part. My dad was a pastor, so we were always stopping at shut-ins, going to nursing homes, helping our neighbors. And so I kind of grew up with that sense of service. And so when I came down to it in Indianapolis, it's just like there was an opening in the city of Indianapolis. I thought, I need to do this. I need to give back. And so I did go work in the city of Indianapolis almost 10 years, but I went through an inspector dealing with community elements, became in administration in the regulatory department. But I worked under Bill Hudnut up front, and I ended my career in Indianapolis working under Steve Goldsmith. And he was probably my catalyst. I can remember my last day, when I went to come to Celina to buy the company, he told me I was a capitalist pig, and then he laughed about it. It was an awesome man, but he told me, he said, you can do anything. He said, I've watched you talk. And he said, I've watched how you handle people. So he said, I'm telling you can do it anything. And he jokingly said, who knows, maybe you'll be mayor of Celina. And so I don't know if he planted a seed or not. That was never my intent.
So your dad had an arranged marriage for you, and this guy had an arranged career for you.
That's what I'm thinking.
I think I need to.
He's basically a Nepo baby at this point.
Yeah. Did you? But obviously that's cool. So did you always see yourself going into politics? Obviously, you didn't, right?
I didn't. I like the service aspect of it. And I was always in church as a man of faith. I'm a Christian, and so I'm always looking at how do you give back, how do you serve? Because I think that's what we're called to do, is to help other people. Certainly in our society, you sense a lot of entitlement. People think you owe me. But when I grew up, it's like I sort of, from my standpoint, I owed them. They didn't owe me. So it's like, how can I give back to them? And so that's kind of where it went. I did get hired by the previous mayor. Sharon LaRue had been the mayor, and we had really a great relationship. And she had appointed me after I'd gotten hired on underneath Paul Arnold. And I didn't want to go do this, but I did it anyway because I felt like they needed it. And I had some big city experience I thought I could bring to the city of Celina. So I was the safety service director for about 5 years, which is, a lot of people call that akin to a city manager, but I was a safety service director.
What do you do? What do you do in that role? Just to give me...
In the safety service director role, you are what's called the appointing authority under statute. We're a statutory city in the state of Ohio, and they appoint all department heads, electric, water, sewer. And so they are the ones that ultimately, if there's suspensions, if there's terminations, if they're hiring, the safety service director is the one that puts that, signs off on that. But there's a lot of different hats that the safety service director wears. And a lot of folks don't understand that. The safety service director has, as I did when I was in that role, they have a lot of ability to make things happen. They can direct work crews here, work crews there. They put together projects and plans, and then it goes obviously with the mayor, and then you go to council for appropriations, and you have to lay that out. Here's what we want to do. This is what needs fixed. Whether it's electric, water, sewer, the parks, the streets obviously are very, very important. So all that goes into there. So moving ahead, I was out after a couple of years, and I just felt like the Lord saying, you can do this. At the time that this occurred back in the 2010, 2011, the city was in some really financial distress, and there was questions about, was it going to be short? Was it going to be long? Was it going to be short? Was it going to be long in the funds? And up till that time, the city had always used funds that were left over from the year before to balance their budget. I kept saying when I was there, you can balance the budget, you just have to spend less. And I think people want you to be responsible. And so when I decided in 2011, I didn't want to, I just fought tooth and nail, but the Lord just kept pressing on me. And so I decided to run for mayor, and based on financial stability, a balanced budget. And I got some of the counselors I knew said, man, you got to be careful what you promise, because that's going to be difficult. So they were ready for the third reading on the budget when I took office in January of 12, and I said, please don't pass this. I need a little time on it. So we brought it back 2 weeks later, and it was balanced. It's the things that everybody wanted to have extra contingency just in case. And I said, wait a minute. When you're at home and you make a paycheck, don't spend more than your paycheck or you're going to be in trouble pretty quick. And so it's like, you can't do that. And so I said, we're not going to do that. And so monies that's left over, you typically spend somewhere anywhere between, I'm going to say about 88 to 94% of the budgeted monies. And whatever you don't spend that year will go back into their respective funds. That is what we use to do major projects.
Interesting.
And so we went forward with that. But and that's what happened in 12 when I took office in 12.
What's it like running for mayor, though? Because I'm sitting here thinking, like, yeah, I like what you're saying in the economic. What's the process feel like from going from, hey, I've got this kind of little bit more behind the scenes gig to, all right, I'm going to go for it. And now you really got to sell yourself. You're not really selling just economic development. You know, a lot of people will vote not just on policies, but like the person behind the policies too. What was it like stepping into a role where you sort of like had to go from public, private facing to now, like, I'm going to put myself out there big time?
It was probably one of the most difficult decisions for me to make. I spent a lot of time in prayer over that. But when I turned in my petition to run, you've got to go in Celina, the mayor and at-large council, the law director, that you have to obtain at least 50 signatures, and they have to be valid signatures of the party you are. You can take Republicans and independents, but if a Democrat signs, they have to be removed from the petition. I did have several signatures removed because they were Democrats that wanted to change, and I knew these folks. It's like, yeah, you really can't sign. Well, I want to sign. Okay, fine. So they would scratch off, but it flowed pretty quick. But I think my wife would tell you, we probably didn't do things near what the political engines would say. Here's what you have to do. You know, you've got to go this door to door. You've got to do it a couple of times. You've got to wear holes in the bottom of your shoes. We didn't do that. I dropped off flyers to multiple areas. I didn't necessarily knock on the doors because I knew so many people. But I did that, and I said, you can call me. I left my number on there, and then I started getting calls from people. Oh, you stopped by my house. I read your flyer. What can you tell me? And then I would engage in that conversation. It was fun going into it, but it was really scary doing that because when you run for office, I don't care if you're running for dog catcher, you're putting yourself out there. Is somebody going to vote for me, or I'm going to walk away? So it was stressful for me when I did that. My family, by this time, I had my kids had gone to school. They were off to college, so we felt like it was better at that time. There's a lot of disadvantages in a smaller town, and there's disadvantages in a larger town for the families in particular. But when people know you, they think, well, I'm your friend, you can do this for me. Well, it doesn't work that way. Politicians so don't ask for a speeding ticket, that won't help them. But it's one of those
I did
that
get pulled over last week.
Yeah, actually, this kind of concludes the podcast. We were just hoping for some favors.
Yeah, you're not getting any favors.
We needed a couple easements, and now that we can't get them, we'll scrap
well,
this.
thanks for being here. No, but it was, to me, it was a scary element, and I had done a lot of praying. I said, Lord, I just need somebody to call and give me encouragement every day from the time I turned it in. Every night as late as midnight, I got a phone call from somebody different. I was just amazed. So it's just kind of like putting that woolen fleece out there.
So when you prayed, you asked for reassurance?
It was reassurance, but I wanted confirmation that I wasn't just stepping out trying to make something happen that wasn't in his will.
Oh, so you were looking for sort of affirmation.
I wanted affirmation for God, and I was probably being a doubting Thomas, saying, I want a little bit more. Give me a little bit more.
Nice doubting Thomas reference.
Yeah,
Let's go.
And I'm just telling you, and it was amazing. But when I was elected in the fall of 2011, I did win in all 10 precincts. So, and I'd been safety director, and whenever you're in that managerial role, you do make people unhappy at times. You won't pave their street, you won't cut their tree limbs down. I mean, there's any number of things they get mad about. So did people vote against me? Yes, but here's what I'll tell you. Regardless of whether they voted for me or not, I'm still their mayor, and I'm going to serve them.
Yeah. So that's a good way to put it. So you win, right? You just win, you said, in fall of 2011, right?
Yes.
You win, and whatever your first day of office is, you're walking in.
Yes.
What's your first thought? You can't go to Hazelnut yet because you weren't around. You can't have a nice
there.
sip of coffee and walk into your office, right? So you walk in there. Are you pumped? Are you excited? Are you scared, nervous, overwhelmed maybe a little bit? Or how was that first day on the job?
I probably, and I know a number of politicians that move through different elected offices, and it gives them a background. But because I had nearly 6 years with the city of Celina before, when I walked in the office, I already knew where everything was, and I knew all the department heads. So had I not known anybody, it would have been a little bit more scary, I think, of what am I going to do now? But I'd already helped negotiate electric contracts. I'd already been through rate increases for water and sewer. So there are things that I already knew about. Mm-hmm. So sorry to say, when I walked in the office, I knew what I was supposed to be doing. I swore into office, and I walked in the office originally at the 426 West Market. When I walked in, it was pretty anticlimactic. I walked in. The first thing I had to do is find a key to the mayor's door because nobody knew where the key was. And then the desk was locked.
The first thing you had to do was find out how to get in there.
Yeah, I had to find the key. So it was kind of funny at the time, but because the mayor's office, the director's office, those are always left locked at night. I mean, that's a normal thing. You lock it because whether you have different people coming in for meetings that might have access, nobody needs to be messing around in those offices. The mayor and even the safety director, and even with council, if we have an executive session, it's because we're discussing something that cannot be in the public, and it's very specific under the sunshine rules or sunshine laws for the state of Ohio, what you can do. If I'm in negotiations, if I'm in a land purchase, that's all behind closed doors.
Is it a cool office at least?
It's an office.
Okay.
So I didn't know if it was like the cool old school mahogany office, like the Nick Saban office.
I pictured the Oval Office.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, here's what I'll tell you. When in a few years after I was in office, we had the opportunity to buy the former First Financial Bank building. And we bought that building, moved out of the old, what we called the Smalley Lumber Yard on West Market Street. That's
The
what
annex.
that originally was, the annex.
closet.
So we sold that, and of course, Landmark has that now, which is a great fit for them being across the street. We got that building. So I'm in the same office that I think that the First Financial at the time president was in. So I'm in that office. So it's got wonderful walnut wood grain paneling and wainscoting, and but we inherited all their furniture.
let me ask you a question. Just stripping away mayor and titles and for what we know about you so far, like, what makes you tick? Like, where do you get you? I mean, for those listening, as far as compared to other guests, a lot of exuberance here, a lot of energy, a lot of passion. I can feel it just being here across from you. Where does that come from? Where did you develop the Jeff part of being mayor?
Well, I probably as a child had ADD before it was diagnosed.
Up top. Here we go.
Yep,
Up top, Mr. Mayor. Let's go.
So I was always doing. I was always going. I can't. I'm not idle. I'm always working on something.
Your mom was taking Tylenol early in your
Yes, she
pregnancy.
was.
Yeah.
I mean, they were catching me running out. My earliest memory, I was climbing out of a crib at 9 months of age. I didn't want to be in, so I climbed out. My earliest memory.
Me too.
Yeah. See, it's like, no, you can't stop me. Don't cage me. I have always had a different level of energy. I am passionate about things, and I can truly say I'm passionate about serving others. And I think when you do things, you're never going to please everybody. But I think some of the things, and I can still remember Mayor Goldsmith that talked to me about it. And then later on, my father-in-law, Owen Amstutz, who's now deceased, he always had some great things to tell me. But it's always about, you're never going to please everybody. Don't try. If you try to please everybody, you're going to please no one. You have to look at what is for the greater good.
I tell that to Mitch all the time with our fries. People tell us we should have too much salt on our fries. And he's like, I don't know, we just get rid of the salt. I'm like, we're not catering to the minority. We're creating to the masses. And 75, 80% love the salt. And the other 20% don't need to eat our fries. I still want you all to eat our fries.
I love your salty fries.
Thank you. Mr. Endorsement for the mayor.
Yeah.
Free brand deal. Yeah. How do you make peace with that? Because a lot of people that'll listen to this podcast, they sort of, they listen, they seek advice at times, or they glean it. Saying that you shouldn't care about what people think or try to please everybody, so to speak, is a lot easier said than done. How do you, or what advice can you give to somebody to get in maybe in the mindset to try to prepare for that? Because holistically, I agree with you. I think what we do at TwoDads, Bill, you and me, we're doing weird stuff. I mean, you had pulled up a mini helmet that we have this like printed TwoDads. Why? We're a chicken truck. Well, why not? Right? And some people will say, like, we've had comments in the podcast, this is stupid. Why would you even talk? What are you going to talk about? Chicken fingers on the pocket? Well, we're just doing our thing, buddy. Taking that full circle, how do you get into a mindset? How do you put it to a level from yourself to, like, not try to please everybody? Is there a piece of advice you would give, or why do you do that? Well,
I would not be truthful if I said it never bothered me. I get more bothered if it affects my family or my wife. But I so often people, here's the reality. Perception becomes reality. And that, to me, is probably the greatest danger. People will think, therefore it is. And so if they think I don't care about something, then, the mayor doesn't care. It doesn't have anything to do with it. And I'll use an example. I didn't think I was going to use this, but one of the things that when you swear an oath to office, you've got to swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States, not just the city of Celina, but also the state of Ohio. First Amendment is really a hot topic for many people all across this country. People have squealed like mad, I have a right to do that. There's some pretty profane signs that you can see putting out there, but they have a right to do it under the First Amendment. Years ago, as a kid, you couldn't put that stuff out there. You would have been censored immediately, but now you don't get censored. So the freedom of speech has gone to the freedom of expression. So people can do a lot of things. So we've had different venues in the park, both secular and religious venues in the park, and I will get crucified because of some venues to go in there, but I will stand up for them. I will defend the Constitution, which under the First Amendment, they have a right to do. Some of my greatest detractors on certain events are church people, and it's like, I can't hide behind my face saying, well, I can't let you do it because I don't believe in it. Because at a level, you've also got to understand biblically, you render unto Caesar's what is Caesar's. We pay taxes. Nobody wants to pay taxes, but we pay taxes. But it's like, that's how things get done. And to allow somebody in the park, allow this group in the park, allows this group in the park, and it allows this group in the park. But the reality is, whether we like it or not, if people want to hold a peaceful assembly, we have to let them. And so I have to defend that right. And that can be discouraging at times when people are coming against me saying, how dare you do this? Well, wait a minute. There are laws involved in here. I could die on my sword and be out of the office within probably 48 hours when the Attorney General's office comes up to remove me, but it doesn't work that way. So I also look at so many of the issues that happen, they're issues of the heart. It's people's core belief systems. And if they're not thinking about that and they're going on an emotional roller coaster, that's where they start regurgitating up on the social media platform.
So that's that's a really good synopsis of that, because I was going to ask you what's the least glamorous thing about your position that people may not know about you. I think you kind of answered it there, but within the social media aspect of it, that definitely allows people to platform, I'll say, some hateful thoughts, right?
And it's increased a ton since you've been in office, right? 2012 to 2025.
So with that kind of increasing of that negative mindset, I even saw something, and I don't proclaim a religion, right? I'm a big believer in God, but not a specific religion. And there was a gentleman from St. Henry, an older gentleman that got lost 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys saw that.
I know him well. He actually built our house.
Okay, yeah. So my wife worked with him at the home place over in St. Henry. Yeah. So she was, a little caught off guard about it because she worked with the guy or his wife, I think, and really knows the family. And you could just see people on there. Everybody was out there, search parties everywhere. And then the media is still saying, like, how did these guys not find him? How did these guys find him? You're not trying hard enough. You're not looking hard enough. You can't look at midnight, right? No. These teams need rest and response. So, like, that's kind of another unglamorous thing, I would say, like, because, St. Henry's Mercer County, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, like, did you have any backlash with that or anything along those lines at the mayor's
We
place?
didn't, because we weren't part of it. We would have been willing to send people to help if they needed it. But I knew, and I believe that, specifically the sheriff's office, they took some heat, and I feel really bad. Sheriff Timmerman has done a fantastic job, and I fully support law enforcement in our sheriff's office. But you're right. They have to take a break, and they have to settle down. But then the family is the one that hired somebody that had a drone that was able to spot him early. But he didn't go very far away, which is good. But that's a tough situation. People, I think more so today than ever, they want to blame somebody if something goes wrong.
Yeah.
There's a lack of personal responsibility.
We would back you that entirely on the podcast.
I just see that throughout everything. As mayor, I get to be responsible for everything, apparently, because I'm blamed for everything that goes wrong. But I'm okay with that.
You signed up for it.
Yeah, I signed up for it. The former sheriff, Jeff Gray, and I had been friends for a number of years, and every so often when something bad would come up, like the tornadoes, he said, remember, we signed up for this. So, and he was an encourager for me. I had a lot of respect for Jeff, knew his parents and his sister, so I knew the family. I've just known so many people since I've been here. I can tell you honestly, I love this community. They are great people in this community. And what I saw, when you talk about finding the gentleman, but what I saw, the most thing that just, I was so flabbergasted and impressed was through our tornadoes. Now, I've been through 4 tornadoes in Celina as mayor. I don't want to do any more. Okay.
Well, I don't think for the record, there's no more tornadoes.
No, I don't want to jinx it. No, and I'm not going to jinx it. But I will tell you, I was absolutely flabbergasted at what neighbors did for neighbors. They were picking up. I was in all these sites. I hugged more dirty, sweaty, filthy people than I can even call. But, they just want to know somebody cared. Their neighbors cared. They might fight any other time, but they cared. And I saw them pick themselves up by their bootstraps. We did declare some FEMA emergencies to try to get some disaster aid. I think I had 13 electric companies, even from Michigan, that drove down to help us restore power over the last one, two ago, I guess, that ripped through Wheatland Acres. So it was phenomenal when I look at what people did to help each other out. And we had no looting. We had no theft. Because we were there. I called the director of public safety for the state, and he said, what do you need? I said, I need people to guard our entrances. I'm not looking for you to arrest because we're not going to have looting. When the Menard store, when that front end of that building shoved to the back, all their gun safe was there. We put an officer in there, not one person crossed that line in there. I mean, it was phenomenal in this community. So I was so blessed as mayor to see what happened on there because it tells me what they're really made of inside. The rest of the fluffy stuff, it's all emotionally driven.
All right, so you talk about, 4 tornadoes, unfortunately, right? One's enough, 2's enough, 3's actually a party. I don't know what they call 4. 4's a headache, maybe. But, through all of that, what was that like, kind of in those moments, and what leadership muscle did that kind of build into you and teach you as a leader? You have previous management experience in operations and some other stuff.
Yes.
But that's nothing you can learn. That's a real life crash course.
Boots on the ground.
Yeah. So what did that teach you and, maybe harden you as a leader maybe?
The irony is my safety director is, he's uber smart anyway, but he's very, very calm. He's collected and he's very sequential in his thought process. And I knew that we had talked about emergency plans and the county has an emergency response plan. And we looked at it, but when you're in those roles, you're waiting for the phone call. In my case, I heard the sirens. And I knew when the sirens were coming, I could hear them. So where everybody else was going to the basement, I was getting in my car going to the office. So because I knew that I can't hide. I've got to be right out there. I even closed my shop because I didn't have enough people to work without me there. So I just closed it because the community was more important to that. And so I was out there. I started immediately getting on the phones, finding out who was there. Then Senate President Keith Faber happened to be in. He drove in and said, hey, Jeff, what can I do to help? And so he connected me with some other people. And that was my first call to the Director of Public Safety. So certainly hats off to Keith Faber, who's now our auditor. But when you have those moments, first of all, you have to know where to look and who to call. That it is so large. I can remember thinking, where do I start? And so it was great having that additional resources of those folks that I knew. It's like, we've got to get it on it right now. Let's do a tally. Let's figure out what's down, who's hurt. And so we just start, it's kind of like that. There's a Blanchard series many years ago that I took under Goldsmith. It was about the 1-minute manager. You've got to be able to react now. You can't wait. Now, we want to do everything with precision. We want to do it with thoughtfulness, but it's like somebody's hurt. The one that went through in 19, the one that went through and hit Wheatland Acres, we had one death in that one. It was an older gentleman in bed, and that was tough. Car flipped up from a next door neighbor and just was a torpedo, and that's how he went out. I think I want to say we had 5 or 6 others that were trapped in their houses or basement. We got all those folks out. A couple of them spent a little bit of time in the hospital, but that's the only one that we had a death on, and it's still hurtful to this day, but there wouldn't have been anything to prevent that. He was alone in his house. Mm-hmm. He had a little dog, and the dog survived. So, and certainly we felt that one, but I think it's hard for anybody, no matter how crass or anti-politician or anti-Democrat, anti-Republican, it doesn't matter. When you see that, it's got to hit your heartstrings. And so you look at that, so what do I do to help? How can I get this done? So the first thing we're doing, our police department and the other departments came in, we're going door to door and everywhere. We're literally going door to door. Is everybody out? Is anybody stuck? And if somebody's in there, they're immediately getting them out. So I think, and that one hit on Memorial Day. So I think that when I looked at that, it was immediate. I had told my director and the police chief, fire chief, I said, look, you guys do your job. I'm going to get out of your way. Tell me what you need, but I want an update. Anytime something happens, give me an update because I'm the media person. I'm the one that's going to be the point. So I would talk media all over the world. I got a call from the White House, talked to the vice president at that point. I still remember Red Cross came in and they wanted to set up. And I'm not bad-mouthing Red Cross at all. It was great, but I don't think Red Cross, the folks that came in, I think they underestimated our community. Red Cross was there. The governor came the next day. I talked to Governor DeWine. We went through that. But at that point, once he got done with speaking and we did the press conference and he was done leaving, Red Cross packed up and left because they weren't needed. Our people absorbed every one of those folks. It was fantastic of what they did. Now, having said that, I'd be remiss if I didn't say there was a lot of damage out in the county area that was outside the city of Celina purview. And I feel for those folks. They lost hog barns and poultry barns, steers. I mean, that was horrible and devastating to their way of life. So I know the county did a lot to reach out to them, but Celina's just more concentrated.
Was that a big difference? Because you said you started in Indianapolis,
yes,
right? And then you've made your way to small town Mercer County.
I did.
Is that a big key differential between a larger city of how they band together?
I have to say yes. I mean, we saw some flooding because Indianapolis sits in a geographical bowl off the White River. So we saw a lot of flooding in there, and a lot of folks would literally just sit around waiting for somebody to come help them. What I find here, because agriculture is our number one industry in Mercer County. You know, Celina, we've got over 600 different businesses. Yeah, that and podcasts. Mm-hmm. We've got over 600 businesses within a mile of Celina, and we're 10,800 people. So that is phenomenal. That's why we have always been able to weather recessions, just on a little bit of a segue there. But I think what I saw here is there's a sense of duty that I didn't find throughout all of Indianapolis. Certainly there's many people in Indianapolis that were. I don't want to take away from that. It was a great city to drive up in. It takes you 2 hours to drive around the city on 465, and I'm whining if it takes me 4 minutes to get to the north side of town. So, I mean, it's all in perspective, okay?
Sure. They do call it the Circle City.
Yeah, absolutely, they do. I've been around that circle a few times.
Big indie guy.
It is. So it was something that I see here that I didn't necessarily see in Indianapolis. But these folks says, hey, what do you need? I've got some extra water here, let alone the businesses. Bella's, when it was in, they brought in water. I think Celina Group brought in water by the semi-loads to help people because things were tore up. But what I saw, not just the residents helping each other, but local business saying, what do we do now? I think the First Church got on Fairground Road, just opened their doors up and said, if you got to go somewhere, come here. And they were fixing food. But therein lies the strength of the community. How do the people treat each other? So when things are going really well, financially we have done really well for the last 14 years, people start wanting something to fight about. They want to bicker about something. And I don't know, it's like they want drama. It kind of goes back to high school. What's the drama now? Mm-hmm. It's like, what is that drama? What is it? If you don't like somebody in office, so you want to go to social media to do a character assassination, but yet you're not thinking at all about the things they've done to improve the life, the quality of life for all the community.
Let me ask you about that. What's the toughest part emotionally about leading a small town? Now, I hear you on all the positives and stuff, and it sounds like a little bit like underappreciation or reaffirmation at times could be a potential love language for you. But is it hard emotionally to sort of be the media front-facing? And that's what they see. But then behind the scenes, it seems like you care so much. I can feel it. Bill, you can feel it.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
What's it like to then care so much about something that then could just be misinterpreted or how do you approach that as a human being? Like, where do you have to go? Do you have to check out? Do you have to check in? Like, I mean, where do you go to compartmentalize that?
That's not easy to check out. When I'm elected at office, I'm elected 24 hours a day. So it doesn't really matter. So,
but you still get tired. You still get,
yeah.
I mean, maybe not you.
Well,
but you still get emotional.
My average, and my wife will attest, my average is about 3 to 4 hours a night of sleep. I don't need any more than that. So, I mean, that's it. But I'm driven all the time. And she tells me I can't do that, but she's driven too. Don't let her fool you. But I'm driven to make sure what is the next thing that I can get done that's for the community. And for me, I realize, I mean, you look at any elected office anywhere, national, statewide, local, the person that gets elected, everything's blamed on the one that just held the seat before. because it's that responsibility thing. I didn't blame. It's like, we're going to fix things. We're going to do this. In the first 12 years, we reduced our $23 million of debt down to about $4.5 million. We didn't need the debt. And it's like, we're going to drive to get this stuff done. So for me, I think the emotional toll comes when I know that we have made great successes. We've gotten a grant. We've been able to pay for, A, B, or C. When we can do that, that is a great success. But mostly is what I get is, well, why didn't you do this here? And so there's an emotional toll of, it's just like you can't please everybody. And sometimes you feel like you can't please anybody. If I'm paving a street, we're doing North Mill Street now. It's a phenomenal job. It's between $3.5, $4 million. I mean, it's just a great street to do. We told them it would go through November to be done. Well, they started complaining 2 months ago, when's this street going to be done? Because it's an inconvenience. We keep local traffic open, but and I feel their pain. I understand that, but the long term is going to be great. But sometimes it's getting through that. The emotional toll comes in. Sometimes it's the comments. Sometimes even in grocery stores, I'll hear things.
They have
like,
access
really?
to you, which a lot of places don't. Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things. And I think the standard reporters, for the most part, they all have my cell number. If they want to call me, they can call me. WLIO and Dayton, they all have my cell number, and they'll call me, and I'll answer. But I like the fact that they can have access to me. I'm a citizen of this community. I pay taxes just like they do. And so I am no different than them, but I am willing to expose myself to get up to help make a better quality life for Celinians.
I think that's super admirable. I mean, even just coming on the podcast and saying that. But to piggyback off, the unfortunate events of the tornadoes, and thankfully, only one person has passed. Obviously, it could have been a lot worse. Obviously,
Yes.
so you look at it
Yes.
in a couple of perspectives. I live on this great lake, right? This
Yes.
Grand Lake, right in my
Yes.
backyard.
Yes.
And I don't remember the year, but I remember it's probably around 2010, 12-ish, in that time frame.
Yeah.
Going over to the lake, fishing with one of my buddies, and just fish being belly up in one of the channels, and it just smelling foul, right?
Oh, like the algal bloom.
So
Yes.
the what?
The algal bloom.
Algal bloom?
Blue-green algae.
So the blue-green algae comes in. You threw me off with algal there. Blue-green algae, I know that, the housing went kind of upside down on the lake. No one knew if the lake was going to turn back over. I know it was a big thing. How did that work for you? I mean, that's got to be something huge when, that's our area's one of our biggest assets. It's a huge moneymaker for us, right? Yeah. Housing market, and then it flips upside down, and it's now a huge liability. What went through your thought process when all that started running through?
I would tell you up front, our greatest asset is our people. That's number one.
Let's go.
Yeah. Greatest asset is our people, regardless. But the lake is a phenomenal asset that most people don't have. The algal bloom, I think the first no contact advisory, I want to say it was in 09 or 10. Can't remember. It was early enough. I mean, it just shocked everybody, and it really shook things up. And since then, we've had some warnings that's gone along. It's gotten a little bit better. I know through the county, in conjunction with the state, they've reestablished wetlands, which is a natural filtration to clean the lake. I think those are really great steps. Some people say, well, that's a waste of property. No, it isn't. They looked at a lot of things. They put alum in several years ago, and I remember thinking alum is it's a metal and it grabs things and sinks to the bottom. Mm-hmm. We'll use that in water, wastewater, and things like that. And I was thinking, why would you put that in the lake? Because all that metal's down at the bottom of the lake. But at the time, it was kind of like the folks that were making those decisions. They were saying, well, the science says we can grab this. Well, it's not going to last long. But here's what I got a question: how long do you think it takes for the lake to turn over? Have any idea?
20 years. I've just
All
pure
right,
guess.
Well, now
Well, it constantly flows.
it does flow, but you have high NPK values. That's potassium, nitrogen,
Yeah,
phosphorus
absolutely.
that's causing the algae. So this is the world I come from, which is
Okay.
really weird. I
Absolutely.
worked for Parker Hannafin back in the
Oh,
day.
that
And
is
we
funny.
studied
Yeah.
algae, especially
Yeah.
Grand Lake as a case study. Does it? I mean, you have no dilution.
No.
You have no. It does not go out to the Ohio River. It does not. It's a man-made lake that.
But it goes into the Beaver, which ultimately makes its way down to the Gulf of Mexico.
Okay.
So it ultimately does go down there.
It does, but it doesn't have any new dilution. You
No,
see what
it
I'm
doesn't.
saying?
No,
So,
it
so
doesn't.
how long does it take the lake to turn over?
It's 1.7 years. And when you think about that, if you think about your swimming pool, our pool, our municipal pool, that water's got to change every 8 hours. Now, we're not adding new water, but it's got to go through the filter every 8 hours. And ponds and lakes, this is also not a natural lake.
Right.
It was hand dug. It was a swamp back in the 1800s, and between 1820 and 1840, you had supposedly 1,800 German immigrants that hand dug the lake. It was a swamp. And so it doesn't have a natural spring base that's feeding water into it. So you have a lot of farm fields, and that's where all that tile drainage and everything else that keeps coming in.
You'll have some runoff. Yeah.
You have runoff. It rains. City streets ultimately make it down to the lake. So you do have, and that's kind of how it fed. And I mean, it was built to be a cleaner and maintenance lake, if you would, for the Miami and Erie canals. So as they back that water up, there is no natural springs that come into that lake of any substance that will help that water turnover. So when it's stagnant and it's not high enough to go over the spillway or an outfall, it just, right now, it's evaporated down, it's low. The lake is low. And you're going to see that sink a little bit more with the hot weather. When it first melts in the spring, you can see down a few feet in that water. But as the sun warms it, then the algae grows back up. But it's just a phenomenal. It's a relatively shallow lake. DNR, I think that sometimes I know they think they're fighting a losing battle. They dredge different channels. This last year they dredged all out in front of our water intake. So they did a lot of those things. They dredge. They have to have a place to put that to dewater. I think I heard it takes nearly 2 years to dewater the soil that they dredge so it can drain back out. But they have to have spoilable sites to put that on. So it's just a constant time of dredging, and that's why there's so much riprap around the side to stop it from flowing in. Again, it's not a stone quarry. It's not a natural lake. It's not lined other than the ground.
Yeah, but it affects our way of life.
Absolutely,
I mean, you could
does.
draw a socioeconomic issue there. Not to get too deep, but I mean, in layman's terms, lake goes bad, like you said, Bill.
Tourists stop.
Absolutely. Housing market lower, lower income housing problems, which could be health, early pregnancies, or drug epidemics, which we don't want to get too much into heroin epidemic, but like, how do you have to? I mean, I guess the question to take this all back is like, you almost have to be a student of so many different topics. Like you see what we just talked about? I mean, for those listening, if you're tracking, right? Not only do you have to be astute to safety, utilities, now you have to understand what the algae is doing to a lake.
Yes.
How to fix the results and the issues and challenges that come from that problem. Do you feel like you're like a student as well? Like are you a curious learner, or are you sort of are you a planner, or are you a reactionary kind of person?
You have to learn to react to things, but I'm a planner. But you can't proactively do for every situation. You don't know when that lake's going to turn. The microsystems were a big deal a few years ago. Celina got nailed several years ago, actually. We put on the new granular activated carbon facility, a GAC facility here in Celina, and that was a finishing filter that would grab the rest of the things that it needed to, so our microsystem levels would go down. We even got another grant on emergency in order to put on a pre-treatment, which was the first in it's kind of a DAF, dissolved air flotation. We would bubble, get all the solids out. We're taking that out because we use surface water, lake water. We get rid of that first before it ever enters the treatment plant. So that helps a whole lot with the equipment, less chemicals. But the beauty of that is chemical costs went up because of COVID and supply and demand, but we had already removed some of that. So, I mean, that was a forerunner, but we were trying to get ahead of the curve. The things that we don't like is for the EPA to say, listen, you now have findings and orders, you have to do this. So you have to keep ahead of those curves all the time. Are we getting too close? Do we need to do something to make it better? So that's what we're continuing to do. And going back to the lake, I mean, the lake is multi-million-dollar a year in tourism traffic, and there would certainly be some industry that would hurt really bad. But here's what is interesting. In the city of Celina, and I can also liken this tornado that touched roughly 20% of our city when it ripped through the subdivision, in the particular one in 19. But the other 80% wanted to go on their daily business. Everything was the same at the other 80%. I'm not saying some of those didn't help, but the stores were open, people were grocery shopping, they were getting their car service. It still happened, so we couldn't just be in that 20% area. We worked in there, and we had other people to help us, but we also had to still continue to serve the remainder. So it was about that coordination effort. You just don't drop, because it didn't happen overnight. I mean, it took several months for even the houses to get back, but it took us a few months to get everything there. But I think even with the damage to our electric lines, I think everybody had power back that could, other than the houses that were gone, was like within 72 hours. Now that seems like an eternity, but I'm telling you what, my crews in the city are phenomenal. And the crews that helped us were great. They knew exactly what to do. They are all, in and of themselves, they are specialists at the things they do. And they do the work that nobody notices on a daily basis. And that to me is, I have that intrinsic reward of knowing we've got it done. The toughest thing for me is when people say, my street's bad, when are you going to pave it? Well, these are planned items. I don't keep paving
I just work
in the
here,
back
man.
room. Yeah. So, and I wish I could do every street there was. But in the last 15 years, we've got, I think somewhere in the 62% of the streets have been reconstructed or repaved.
They take care of mine, so I'm
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
I would
that's
just
what I
reply
figured.
back like, do you want me to triple your taxes? If
Yeah.
so, I can get to your street a little bit faster.
Well, ironically, and I'm glad you said that. Ironically, if I tell people I need to have an additional tax in order to do this, they take it as a threat. You're just doing this to get me to pay more money. No, I'm being honest with you.
You pocket all of it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm being honest with you. It takes revenue to do that. Of
course.
You look to reconstruct a street, you're roughly $500 a lineal foot for a residential street. If I'm just paving it, it's about $100. So when you look at that and you start multiplying that out, those are not cheap streets.
Wow. So while all these crises are happening, right? You had the tornadoes, you had the algae bloom, obviously some other stuff that always comes up. You're also pushing for these upgrades, right? You talk about the utilities. You didn't talk about it, but I know like the Bryson Park District.
Right.
How do you push for the future while putting out all these fires at the same time? You said you're 20% over here, right? And you still got 80% of the town to take care of.
Correct.
So you have all these plans, and like one thing people don't realize, like the sun still shines the next day, and you still got to
Absolutely.
go to work the next day, right?
Absolutely.
So how do you handle all that while all these crises are going?
Well, I'm glad I don't require a lot of sleep.
I guess when you get to work 20 hours a day, you
Yeah.
can get a lot done.
There is, and it's not that I work 20 hours a day, but my mind doesn't stop,
Right.
and so it keeps going. And I always chuckle because, I mean, let's face it, we'll all look at somebody that's in office somewhere and say, "Oh, I could do better than them," or "I could do this," and then you get in that office and say, "Oh my gosh, I had no idea."
Yeah, I thought that before you got here.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, I think I'll just stick to this podcast.
But the things I guess the juggling of it comes down to what are you planning? And we try to plan out, all my department heads, they have to have at least 5 years of needs that they need to do going forward. So we know how to fund those, if we can fund them, how we're going to fund them, where does the money come from? So we look at that. When we look at buildings, we've got to look, what do we need to do to this building? What can we do? We're building a new public works building, and it's $2.3, $2.4 million. But our old public works building, the school really needed it for their bus garage. It was a perfect fit for them. We'll move out of there. They can buy that. We already had the property. Let's just get it done. These are once in a long lifetime, if you would, opportunities to go ahead and finalize this to get it done. So when you're doing that, I may have a tornado that's going on, but I can't stop planning and moving forward. So I've got to continue to move. And as long as I've got part of Celina still here, we can continue to do it. But the reality is people are still going to get up and go to work. Their kids are going to go to school. They still have to eat. They're going to go to the grocery store. They'll go out to eat. I mean, they're still going to do these things, and you have to maintain that. You have to know that you're doing that. And at the same time, knowing that, I know that street needs paved. Do we have this out for bid yet? It's just a constant. It's an everyday thing. What's next? And so we're always looking, if you run a race, you're going to go across the finish line, and whether you've won or come in second or wherever you are, you finish that race. In this case, when we run past that finish line on this project, we're starting another race for the next one. It doesn't stop. There's no in between. In the winter, when we're not doing like a major construction project, that's where all the design plans are. That's where we're going back and forth. How do we value engineer that? How do we know that this is going to work, where we're going to go? How do we coordinate the contractor? What are we going to do with traffic during that time? So, I mean, there's many things you can't put that aside.
I'm just glad we sell chicken because that sounds exhausting.
This sounds, I love it though. It's just such an in-depth look at the things that people, and myself included, don't consider when you think about what the duties and responsibilities are. The whole
Sure.
time that you've been kind of speaking on that particular topic, can I just ask something more personal? Like,
Sure.
this comes with time, and it comes with exhaustion, and it comes with sleep deprivation, or maybe not needed. What if you and your family had to sacrifice being in this position?
I've canceled trips. I've cut trips short. We have redirected and rerouted. And one of the reasons why we waited, I wasn't intending to do this before, but it's like, I can never do this while our kids are at home and subject to everything. It would have been more struggle. Now, my kids call me, we talk to the kids every day. They call they're all over the country.
How many kids you have?
I've got 4 kids. I got 3 in-laws, a son-in-law and a daughter-in-law. Sorry, that's 2 daughter-in-laws and a son-in-law. My youngest daughter is not married yet. She's a police officer down in Knoxville, Tennessee. So she has a strong sense of... Yeah, she's got a strong sense of justice and righteousness.
Gee, I wonder where she got that from.
Who knows? But she is a tremendous young lady, and I think that all my kids are doing great. They're very strong. They're entrepreneurial in nature. I know where they got that. But
your wife?
Yeah, my wife. They can all, they stand on their own 2 feet. But I think, and they hold really strong core values. They don't get swayed by media. They don't get swayed by the garbage in and out. And I don't believe any of them even get on Facebook. Because they said, why do that? People just kind of regurgitate on there. And Facebook could be used for such great things. I've seen wonderful family pictures. I've seen newborn babies. I've seen houses. I mean, you see wonderful things on there.
TwoDads, chicken.
TwoDads is fantastic.
Podcast clips.
So, podcast clips. But, then it comes around, then you put on something good, and all of a sudden somebody wants to be negative on there. And it's like, really? Why can't you celebrate the good? And I think
negative's hot right now. I think anybody listening right now would say that negative material is the hottest thing since sliced bread. I mean,
yes.
It is so much easier to radicalize people
absolutely
in a negative light than it is to spin and show appreciation, because it's easier. It's easier to connect with that emotion.
I think a lot of it goes back to something he said, though, that his kids have core values, right? Like I have a few. My son's 8, right? You kind of met him when he came in here. There's like 3 or 4 things we don't waver on.
Right.
Like if you ask him right now, what's the one thing we don't do in this home? He says lie. We don't lie. That's the first core value I taught him, to say, like, that's where the foundation starts.
Yes.
If you mess up and you do something wrong, tell me. I can help you. We can fix this. But that's it. Like, there's no, I'm going to lie. Now he's 8. He'll lie. He does that a little bit. We've all have. But he also knows the consequences when he lies.
That's right.
I'm, pro spanker. I grew up, I got my butt spanked, and I think that straightened me out and put me on a really good path for success. I know some people will.
That guided me.
Yeah, I think some people will not like that take that listen to this, and that's okay. I'm not telling you how to parent. I'm saying what worked for me as an individual, also what I think will work for my son. But that was something that my wife and I talked about when we were together just dating. I was like, what are your thoughts on this? If we're going to have kids eventually, I didn't marry my wife in 2 weeks, nothing like that, or get proposed in 2 weeks. But one thing I did want to ask you, Mitch and I talk about this all the time. We say the only way all of this goes is with his fiancée Tasha and my wife Haley, right? We feel passionately that these women put us on the path for success. Without that strong right-hand woman, none of this is possible. I want to let you have the opportunity, because I know if I ask the question, I know what the answer is going to be, right? But what's that like? And I know your wife's your right-hand person.
Absolutely.
I think you can shine a little light on what makes her so great and how she helps you within your career.
Patty has been a phenomenal supporter to me. She will call me out. She'll say, why are you doing that? And she'll want me to make sure that she understands if I'm going to go tell somebody else. But she is a phenomenal, deep faith. And I know she prays for me every day. And that's satisfying to me. And for me, what's fun is with the coffee house, we get to work together. She's the main baker in there. And so I just love working with my wife. Now, I tell her there's a line between the kitchen and out front. She needs to stay behind.
Bill says the same thing to me.
But we have a lot of fun. We laugh. And I think that so often I see couples that don't laugh together. But we laugh. We have fun. And I think my wife, I wouldn't be who I am without her.
That's incredible. I'm glad. We talk about it a lot, and just as much as you talked about your kids, I could tell the way you felt about your wife, and she's going to be listening to this, I'm sure. So I'm glad you got
Patty.
Shout out Patty. You're a great
absolutely.
woman. So All right, so you talk a little bit about, obviously you do a lot with City Hall. You kind of tease there, having Hazelnut there with your wife and enjoying that and laughing and everything else like that. I've had the coffee. The coffee's great. I haven't dug into the sweets. I know my wife does. She's got a sweet tooth, so I'm sure she could probably tell your wife what her favorite little side dish is there. But what inspired that? You've got the conveyor company. You're a mayor. You've got 4 kids. You're probably a grandpa to some degree, and you decide to start a small business with your wife. What sparked that interest?
We have had this dream for a number of years. She thought we needed a coffee shop. And we kept talking about it, and there was another coffee shop in town at the time, and I knew that lady that owned that, and she just said, are you going to start one? I said, well, I won't while you're going, but when you're done. But she called me up. It was all opportunistic at that point, but our kids were out at school and said, we can do this now. And Patty said, yeah, we got to do this. And so we decided to do that. I thought I could remodel the old structure we owned on the property there. I couldn't, so I tore it down. And so we built new back in 2014, but we built new, and it's like we just kind of took that leap of faith. I had some really well-meaning friends that said, we think this looks really cool, but, most businesses die in 6 months. Yeah, thanks for the encouragement. That was just phenomenal.
Just water on the fire.
Just throw a little bit more water on there. And I said, yeah, but I think this is going to work. And I really hope so. But so I'd gone to the bank and talked to a buddy of mine at the bank, one of the VPs. I said, here's my plan. I've got a rough business plan for it. And he'd say, okay, how much do you need? I think, wait a minute, this just doesn't happen. But we did a lot of praying on this one too. But I will tell you, the design build firm that built it, I never signed a contract. I did it on a handshake, and they built the building. And it was phenomenal. And ever since, even with the nasty COVID garbage going on, we didn't lose anything. We'd opened up a shop inside of Coldwater Hospital. They really wanted over there, and I love being over there. Great people. But during the pandemic element, they said, you're going to have to close down because you're not part of essential staff. And I just said, tell your staff they want coffee. So, but nonetheless, we did close down. But even when we closed down, the business shifted into Celina. We never lost. So we have grown the business ever since, but our whole philosophy is God owns the shop and we get to work there. We just want to be a light in the community. We want to love on people when they come in. We want them to feel like it's not only a safe place, but they're somebody. And so they come in and they're somebody. But we have a fairly large group of I'll just say customers. They've been with us since 2014. They come back almost every day.
I know
and
one.
So,
I know one too.
And it's really awesome. But the thing you didn't see on there, I'm also the bean roaster. I roast all the coffee beans. I've got a guy that helps me right now to do that. But we supply about 5 other coffee shops out of the area, Fort Wayne and Roanoke and Anna. We supply their coffees. But I roast about 13, 14 tons a year of coffee beans. And so when I don't like a coffee, I have changed the roast. And so I write my profiles for the roast, and that's something else I do when I don't
I can only imagine how detailed his coffee roasting is now that we've heard your like mayor style.
Yeah, I just, because I think would I want that served to me? And it's like, no, I wouldn't want that served to me. I don't like it well enough. So then I have changed, and it's like, yeah, now I got it.
What's scarier? Deciding to bring a project to Celina, or your wife has stepped away and you have to make the latte?
Well, I do make the latte.
No, you got to make the sweets.
You got to.
I do bake.
Okay.
When I have to.
We can't shake
sorry.
it.
Sorry.
Good news is, if we need to cook next summer,
Yeah.
I know I'm calling.
Well, the best part
At this energy, he can do the front of house and back of house.
My wife is phenomenal. She's got some other people that obviously help her. Tamara and Jody, they help her as well. But everything's from scratch in there. Anybody can go to the frozen department and buy something, throw it in the oven. But everything's from scratch, even the pie crust for the quiche. So we do everything from scratch there. I learned at a young age because my grandmother was a phenomenal baker, all in her head. My mom did it. My sister can make a gourmet meal out of like 3 items. And so I learned a long time ago. My dad taught me how to make pizza dough to feel for the elasticity. So I understood that at a very young age. And so it just sticks. It's like riding a bike or flying an airplane. And I do both of those too. So it
Couldn't imagine.
Yeah, it's really, it's gratifying to do that. Now, I will tell you, I don't bake a lot because of my time. But Patty she had an elbow surgery here this past summer, spring. And so I rolled out cinnamon rolls, made cinnamon rolls. And we have other people that help that too. I think Kate also does that. But I can do that. but it's so much of a feel, and much of it comes from experience. After you've done it so many times, made lots of mistakes, then you figure out, oh, this works.
Let me ask you about that real quick,
Yes.
because we do have a lot of entrepreneurs that listen to this, aspiring entrepreneurs, people that are currently in
Don't
business.
give up.
That's kind of what I want to ask you.
Don't give up.
If you had any advice, don't give up, spoiler alert, but you're starting a coffee shop, and
Yes.
and you have a supreme confidence about you, and you've obviously done the mayor side of your life. But getting into the restaurant and the community of serving food is
Yes.
still it's a very difficult task. Even Bill and I come in confident, and we learn stuff every day
Yes.
about how difficult it can be.
Absolutely.
What advice would you give somebody who's on the cusp of thinking of starting something new that seems scary?
Well, I think obviously you have to start with an idea and then a dream. You got to have a dream, then get an idea. But I think, I know this sounds maybe the scholastic side of it, but you need to at least rough out a business plan. What do you think it looks like? How much, what do you want to serve on your menu? You divide, you kind of make that menu up, and it's like, okay, what's my payment going to be? How much money do I have to have in the cash register to start? How many employees do I need? When we were first thinking about this, Patty said, well, you can work in the morning and I'll work in the afternoon. And it's like, okay, that didn't go to work. That obviously didn't work. But it's like, did we know that it was going to be an instant success? I'm going to say no, but I also knew that we had a passion to do it and do it well. And so that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to love people well. Not just as a segue, it's all also, I think, my auxiliary mayor's office. I answer so many questions there, which is fine. But it's one of those that people can connect. They want to know that there's somebody. But I would just tell you, if you're an entrepreneur and you're thinking, I want to start this business, ask yourself, why do you want to start it? If you're just thinking, I'm going to start this business so I can make money, you know what? That's probably not a good reason. You have to have a passion to do it. And the old saying goes, when you're passionate about something, you don't work anymore. You have that passion. You've got to enjoy what you do. And I would say this for anybody, even if you've been somewhere for 25 years, it's like, I hate being here, but I've got a retirement here. But if you're that miserable, you're not going to have a good quality of life anyway. You need to do something you really, really love to do.
Did you know about Carrie Beamer then, who was on the podcast,
Yes.
who had quit, and now
Yes.
he was on the podcast
Yes.
before he left. He told us that
Was he on before he left?
Yeah, we'll have to share the episode
Yeah.
with you because
Yeah.
he sends us updates. He was just in Spain,
Yes.
and he's
And he told me about that, and I'm so happy for Carrie. I think that is phenomenal.
That was for our episodes.
Yeah.
He reached out to us. He was the first guest that had reached out to us that we haven't sought out.
Oh, that is
and we
great.
get an email to Mitch or I's email, and we forward it to each other, and we're like, "What the heck?" Like we look into this, right? We got to vet stuff.
sure,
and we look
sure.
into it, and I said, "All right, Carrie," I said, "We looked at your stuff. I got to ask you a bunch of questions to understand the
Yes,
dialogue
yes.
here." So I call him, and he is pumped.
Oh,
like
yeah,
he's super
absolutely.
excited, high energy guy, right? So I'm talking to him. I get off the phone. I said, "Oh, I talked to Mitch. We'll look at a schedule and we'll try to get you on an episode." I call Mitch and I'm like, "We got to do this." like he just.
It wasn't even the direction that we were normally going,
Right.
though. We were doing like entrepreneur and
Sure.
trying to find our footing. But you're right. Bill sends me the story, and I'm like, we have to tell the story.
He literally said back. I told him. I said, "I vetted him. I asked the questions. We have enough content here." And he's just like, "When are we ever going to have the opportunity to have a guy like that on this podcast again?" And that's because we did. We were interviewing all business owners. That was kind of the niche of the podcast. And then he comes on and he comes here, man. And the reviews we've gotten from that episode, in our DMs, people love his updates. He sends us the videos.
Oh, that is awesome.
Ryan Spriggs is a guy. He says that's his favorite episode.
It started kind of flat because, again, we're taking people on this journey of
Sure.
like, here's kind of where the podcast is going. That episode changed the course of the entire podcast.
Isn't that awesome?
We're always looking for something inspiring,
Yeah.
which we are always looking for something to draw on. Because for us as creatives and people that, we serve chicken and French fries, you have to have fun with it. You have to look for
Absolutely,
new
you have to
things.
have fun.
Otherwise, at the end of the day, you just have you could say that about anything, though.
Yes.
That email changed the whole course of. Like, we could have had you up here and said, "Hey, let's talk about this particular issue and blah 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 blah
Yeah,
blah."
exactly.
No, what was the emotion that went through, Carrie, when you quit your job and you sold your house and
Yeah.
you just decided to go to Nicaragua?
Yeah.
It's just like what a great venture that was, and it's still, like you said, Bill, it's a lot of people's favorite episodes.
Yeah, they talk about it all the time, and it goes back to it, right? You kind of said it like, "Don't give up," and we asked him, like, I think it was 2 or 3 different times in the episode. were like, where in the world in your brain, you thought this idea, I learned how to sail on Grand Lake St. Mary's, right?
Yeah. On YouTube.
On YouTube.
Yeah, on YouTube.
A
Yes.
year and a half later, you're going to get on this trip all the way across the world.
Yeah.
And he gave us the statistics. Like 85% of the people only do like one leg.
Yes.
He's doing every single
Absolutely.
leg, and it's going to take him like 10 or 11 months. And we'll have him back on. We already said it. We'll
Oh,
have
yeah.
him back
You
on
need
when
to.
he gets back. And then the other thing was, we're like, has anybody ever like, obviously got injured or died? He's like, yeah, there's like 3 or 4 deaths that have happened. People get thrown overboard or whatever.
Yeah.
And he doesn't care. And that free flowing effort and personality of him is what we want to tell people. Like, if you have a dream, if you have something you want to do, just go do it. Especially if you're younger, right? You have time to make up for mistakes. But that's kind of what I wanted to ask you though. You've had multiple businesses. You've been a successful mayor. In my eyes, I'll say. Some may say otherwise, right? But either way, what are some of the... Have you ever had a miss? Have you ever had a failure that's kind of helped define your career?
That's a great question. I thought a lot about that and going through there. And it's like, failures come in so many different areas. And I kind of hold myself to a little higher standard. And so I would say in me, it's like, yeah, I really failed at that. And I think some of the things, okay, here's the reality. When I'm out in public and speaking, anything I say can and will be used against me in the court of public opinion. That's just a politician's life. So I'm always told, be careful what you say, be careful what you write, don't say this, don't say that. I get a lot of that on there because people run with it. And there's some written media and some of the social media, they take things out of context and they'll take one blip and then they'll put it in with something else.
I think everybody agrees in most facets.
Yeah, in most facets it does. So I'm always having to be careful about that. But if I look back at what I would call thinking about failures, it would be that maybe I didn't properly communicate something to the public to where there was unrest. It's like, you misunderstand me. Well, I didn't explain it well enough. And that to me, I beat myself up over that because it's like, no, I want you to understand. I believe we can always agree to disagree.
Yeah.
I can believe we can always, somebody might want to put a casino out on the lake. I'm never going to put a casino out on the lake.
For the record, I'm in.
Okay, that's
I'm
what
in
I
on
thought.
that too. So all in favor
fine.
here at the podcast,
Yeah.
say aye.
2/3 votes, all we need.
Great.
Sorry, Mr.
I guess,
Mayor.
yeah, I'm not funding it. So, but it's somebody may want to take the city in a different direction. I had somebody say the other day, well, I don't like the direction the city's in. Well, what direction do you not like us going?
You're not going to get that.
Crickets.
Yeah.
And there we go. There's the crickets.
I just learned how to use this.
He's the tech guy too. But sometimes I think it's incredible and I go back to what I said earlier about perception becomes reality. If people, my first rule, and I'm going to go back a little bit further. My first rule to staff was you tell the truth, you tell it all, and you got to tell it first. The problem is with social media, you can never tell it first. Somebody has already got it out on social media. And that is so incredibly difficult because they've set the stage. And that makes it hard to overcome. Now, I can always overcome with facts and I can always overcome the proof, but whatever reason, a failure is I can't get the perception off what they first heard. Everybody say, well, you can't believe anything what you hear on TV or what you read. And yet they do. Mm-hmm. And it's because we have this insatiable appetite for the negative and for the drama.
I also agree with you, though, on the communication aspect.
Yeah.
When Bill came into the TwoDads fold, not that it's about as important as the city of Celina.
Yeah, I think it's probably equal.
But it's a fixture here. We're very
Sure.
proud of that, to be a part
Yes.
of Mercer County. But one of the key topics is always communication. Like
Yes.
Bill will tell you, and I'll tell you myself, I'm always running. I run at a 12 when it's a 10. You know what I mean? I wake
Yes.
up. I don't need a lot of sleep myself. We have a lot of similarities that I see in between each other. But I definitely think that communication, because I'm moving so fast at times, is the challenge that I go through specifically. It's like I'm moving so fast, and I know my intention is pure. I know I come out
Yes.
with good intention, and it doesn't always land. And fortunately, this buddy to my left, it's good to have a soundboard to be able to bounce some of this stuff. Do you bounce your stuff off anybody as well? Like, do you have a right-hand person in?
I do, and I can bounce off my safety director. He does really well, the council president. I can bounce off, and I can bounce off pretty much all the council and individually if I have an issue. But if I get down to a heart-felt issue, I'm probably going to go to prayer and talk to my wife because I need to think what have I said that I'm forgetting that I said, as far as when I'm trying to put this together and analyze that. Because sometimes okay, how am I going to approach this? And I've had people want me at 2 events nearly at the same time. That's also a challenge. I've made it, but that's also a challenge. But we've got a lot of great service groups in the area. We've got a lot of great businesses in the area. But what I found over the years, even as director, businesses really, they don't want you in their business. They want to be left alone to do their business. Now, if we have to go and say, okay, now we know we got to replace this massive water line in Sugar Street, we know that we're going to probably have to do something with rates. Well, we need to immediately be able to reach out to the business saying, this is what we're doing and this is why. Because we have to be not-for-profit. We just have to be. We get money only for what we're doing. We're not subject to the PUCO like the investor-owned utilities, but we still, our stockholders or stakeholders are customers. Everybody that's on a water line, everybody that's on an electric line, everybody's on the wastewater. So we go to them and say, here's what we're doing, this is why we need it, and this is what it's going to look like in your monthly bill. I mean, we tell them right away. That doesn't mean everybody likes that. I've had people say, if you raise my rates, I'll never vote for you again. Well, okay, but if the EPA says we have to do this, we have to do this.
You're doing this to me, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I am.
It's attack on me. I'm going to take to Twitter.
It's going on there. Okay, fine. But it can be real challenging in communication. I think that's probably the largest thing. And some days I don't think you can communicate enough. I write a blurb in the newsletter that goes out with the utility bills. I don't know, maybe people don't read it. Maybe they look at it, glance, and throw it off. But the newsletter with the bill always tells when the trash pickup, limb pickup, all these kind of things. And I'll put in there, here's the projects we're doing. It's online to do this. Here's the projects we're going to do next. And I will try to put that, here's the next event. This is going to be, Thanksgiving Day. We're going to be doing A, B, and C in the city. So I try to tell them things of interest that talk about that. I'll do a local radio station. I'll give quotes to the paper. And podcasts, but people will still say, I didn't know.
Of course.
I don't, communication, short of going door to door and waiting for them to answer, I don't know how else to get information to everybody. Because we do put things out.
I also feel like it's kind of your job to let everybody know, right? But
Absolutely.
if you can list out these 10 ways of communications and you put it out there and you tell them, it's the same thing. You're going to put that letter out there and let people know what they're doing, and they just throw it in the trash and don't read it.
Right.
So it's like, I can confirm I delivered it to your house, Mr. Long.
Sure.
Well, I didn't get it. No, every single person got it.
Yeah.
You just didn't.
Everybody got
You just
it.
didn't want to read it, and
Why
Mitch can
me?
barely. Well, there's
Definitely.
similarities there
Guilty.
with that
Guilty.
style.
Yeah.
But one thing I kind of want to ask you, because I think you're gonna have a great answer for this. I just don't know what it is. When you lock up your mayor office door, because we learned it's very important to lock that up every night. Now that you have the key, or you turn the hazelnut sign from open to close, or I don't know if you have an LED light, obviously. But what do you hope that people understand about you, not as a politician, not really as a business owner, but just as a man or person?
Well, first of all, I want them. Character is what you do and nobody's looking, and I want them to know, I want them to feel comfortable knowing that their city's in good hands. I want them to know that Jeff's got coffees ready for the next morning. So, I want them to know that they can be assured that I'm not running away. They can be assured that I'm going to be there. I'm going to answer that phone. I'm going to talk to them. They won't always like my answer, but I'll never lie to the people. And I will tell them that. If you want your street paved and it's not on the next 5-year plan, I'm going to say, I'm sorry, it just didn't make the next 5 years. It's not the worst street. I mean, I'm going to tell them that even if they don't like that. But I want them to know if they call me, they're going to get the truth. Sometimes when you don't tell people what they want to hear, it's like, oh, he's lying. There's no point to me lying. There's no profit that comes from that. So for me, I'm just always going to tell them the truth, but I want them to see that I care about the community. And the majority of people can't start businesses or don't start businesses. I've invested in the community of the business. So people will complain because I invested in the business and I didn't fill in a vacant business downtown. It's sometimes that doesn't make sense to me. It's like people want to find something to complain. But at the end of the day, I want them to see that I'm proud of the community because I actually did invest into it. I care about Celina. I want to be part of the progress and the success of Celina.
That's a great answer. And with that,
all right,
it's time for the game show segment of the Two Dads Podcast. We didn't clue you in too much, Mr. Mayor.
That's all right, bring it on.
But we play a game show every week, and our lawyers, our huge, massive Riker legal team makes us ask every time, are you interested in playing the game show this week?
Oh, bring it on.
Okay.
I'm
Bill,
still rooting for one of these weeks. Somebody like, nah, I'm good.
I would shut it down. If
I
they
would.
said no,
Oh.
I would. I
Yep.
wouldn't play the game show. But this week we are playing it, okay, boys? All right, Mr. Mayor, it's time to take off your serious mayor hat and play a little game. Bill, I'm going to invite you to come play this
go.
as well, okay?
I don't get to play every week.
This one's called Mayor or Malarkey. I'm going to go a rapid fire statement at both of you. Some are real mayoral powers, ordinances, or small town quirks, and some are total nonsense that I made up. You and Bill have to shout out your answer, all right? We'll tally the points accordingly. One right answer, one wrong answer accordingly. 1 point for the right answers, okay? Mayor if you think it's legit. And malarkey if you think it's fake. No debate. This is a lightning round. Loser buys the first round of coffee at Hazelnut. Okay. I know the owner, Bill. You know the owner.
I know a guy.
Okay. Are you guys ready? Everyone's ready?
Okay.
Let's go.
Okay. Mayors in Ohio are legally allowed to officiate weddings. Is that mayor or malarkey?
Mayor.
That's correct. 1 point for both of you. Okay. The mayor decides what time the streetlights turn out every night. Mayor or malarkey?
Malarkey.
Malarkey. It's going to be hard if he answers
Bill
first.
has to answer first. I'm going
That's fair,
on the
yeah.
fly. On the fly. Okay, on the
Okay,
fly.
okay.
It's 2-2. We're still going to keep you hooked up, Bill Ray. 2-2.
I don't know
He
if I would've
copied
got
my
that
last
one.
answer.
Yeah, he's been
Yeah.
copied. I could see him look over and go, okay. Number 3. In Celina, you can't park a boat trailer on a city street overnight.
Mayor.
Mayor.
I actually didn't know the answer, but Bill has a trailer, and we want to make sure we didn't get in trouble. So that's true. We're just looking out for you, buddy.
Yeah.
If it's not hooked to a vehicle, you
Okay.
can't leave it unhooked.
Yeah, I knew that too.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I didn't know any of this, so this is great.
I just parked my boat in the lake.
Okay. A mayor can declare an official sandwich of the city. Is that mayor or malarkey?
Malarkey, but it should be Mayor in Salina, and it would be
Malarkey.
the All-American Dad.
That's right. It would be the chicken sandwich from All American TwoDads. All right. City council meetings legally can't start until the mayor finishes the Pledge of Allegiance. Is that mayor or malarkey, Bill?
That's got to be Mayor.
Malarkey.
That's malarkey. Oh.
We need to change that rule.
That Bill is no longer tied with the mayor. The mayor is in the lead, and I do not see the Bill catching up after this one. Here we go. Mayors can issue proclamations like National Pickleball Day or Taco Tuesday week. Is that mayor or malarkey, Bill?
I don't know why they couldn't. Mayor.
Mayor.
That's mayor. That's correct. They can have a ceremonial
Yes.
addition to the city. All right, Bill. The mayor has to personally approve all new pet adoptions from the local shelters. Is that mayor or malarkey?
Malarkey.
Malarkey.
That's malarkey. He's nodding
Yeah,
over here.
kinda got
He's
me.
nodding like a psychopath. I hate that. Here we go. If a snowstorm hits, the mayor has the power to declare a parking ban downtown. Is that mayor or malarkey?
Mayor.
Mayor.
That's a mayor. That's correct. I don't know why I say it to him like he doesn't know it's correct.
Hey, you never know. We might get one.
That would not be great.
We had the lawyer last week.
That's true.
She missed one.
But
maybe.
that's a lot of nuance to the legal
Yeah,
jargon.
that's
Here we
true.
go. Celina once banned tying your horses to a fire hydrant. Mayor or malarkey?
That sounds like Mercer County. I'm going Mayor. I can see it.
I've never had horses in town, but I can see, yes, I would think the mayor could ban that.
Probably mayor, but I don't know. I just made that
I don't
one
know.
up.
That's
It's
what I thought
old
too,
small
so.
town codes, yada, yada, yada.
yeah.
They used to drink when they were 12. Who knows, right
Yeah,
now?
yeah.
And the last one. The mayor gets free parking anywhere in town for life. Is that mayor or malarkey?
Oh, definitely Malarkey.
Malarkey.
All right, that's it. That's the TwoDads Podcast, episode number 33. Mr. Mayor, thank you for being here. Appreciate
This
you.
is awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill Ray, anything to say before we go?
I'm just excited to get out to Hazelnut Saturday morning.
I can't wait to get a key to the city because we're the best podcast in
Oh,
town.
absolutely.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you on the next episode. TwoDads Podcast, episode 33. We're out.